your girl, and it's different. Look at that. It's all new. We're going to try this new fun, fancy little format, and I don't know if it's going to stick, but at least it looks kind of cool. So it is officially the end of June, and if you've been watching my channel, you'll have seen that I did not put up my comics that I read for the month of May, because I slacked on that. And it is now like June 27th that I'm filming this. And, you know, it's better late than never. I actually struggled with whether or not I was going to film this one just because I had been pushing it off. Things got in the way, and I was like, it's literally the end of June and you're filming a May video. However, the stack for May, June, whatever we want to call it at this point, all these wonderful goodie comics, it was way too good to ignore and pass up and talk with you guys. So it's better late than never, and without further ado, I guess here are all the wonderful goodies that I read for the month of May. Now, this first book, ironically, is like ultra super late. I think I read this book back in March, and I just kept forgetting to put it on my what I've been reading videos. So again, I guess the theme we're running with is better late than never. First book on my list is Pride of Baghdad. It is a original short graphic novel by Brian K. Vaughan, who I'm sure you guys all know from Saga and Paper Girls. And this was like I said, an original graphic novel that was published originally by Vertigo. Rest in peace, Vertigo. I miss you so much. But Pride of Baghdad is just one of those stories that I come back to from time to time. I think I've reread this book like 4 or 5 times since I initially found it a couple years ago. It is just one of those stories that stick with you. It's a Brian K. Vaughan story that just makes you question and think everything. Pride of Baghdad is actually based on a true story. It's based on lions who escaped a zoo in Iraq after American bombs were dropped on the city, and it is the tale of 3 days that these lions roamed free in the city of Baghdad. I really just like this one because, like a lot of Brian K. Vaughan stories, aka Saga, I'm looking at you, Pride of Baghdad twists and questions your morals and intentions, and does so in the form of these lions that have personalities and have histories, and it really does, I always describe it as just an adult Lion King. The artwork from Nico is just absolutely fabulous. I love it. The colors are gorgeous and grabbing. It really is just an adult Lion King that makes you cry more than when Mufasa got thrown off the cliff. Such an underrated Brian K. Vaughan story. I never hear anybody talking about it, and that makes me extremely sad. So if you're a fan of his work, if you're a fan of Saga, if you're a fan of Paper Girls, you literally do not have an excuse to pick this book up. It's so good. Like, this is what we're starting off our reading list with. Like, look at this. This is just, it's insanity. You guys are always telling me to read more manga, and I'm kind of proud of myself because I've been keeping up with manga. I'm still reading Battle Royale, by the way, which I'm not going to get into, but it is kind of upsetting me. TLDR, I'm not going to go too much into it because if you want to know more about Battle Royale, you can check out last month's video in which I literally cry and scream over Battle Royale, but I haven't finished it yet. And I can say, without really spoiling, it slows absolutely down, and it kind of upset me. Like, this book that literally was off the rails for the first like 30-40 chapters and is now slowing down in its ending and finale, and I don't know, I'll finish it one day. I still want to do a really big video on Battle Royale because I do think that it is impactful, but Battle Royale and me are just taking a little bit of a break. But we're not here to talk about Battle Royale. We're here to talk about the other manga that I've been reading. The first one on this list, because there are a couple this month, the first one on this list is My Androgynous Boyfriend. I've been eyeing this one for a while because look at it, it is just super cute. So My Androgynous Boyfriend is exactly what it sounds like. It is a small slice of life story with a girl and her androgynous boyfriend, and it is really queer without being like your standard stereotypical queer. I really like this book because it does break gender barriers, it breaks gender stereotypes and those queer roles. Now, I will say there's something about this book that kind of disappointed me, and it's really hard. I can't really pinpoint it or put my finger on it. I think it's mostly due in part to me. I think I was expecting something more out of it, which is really weird considering it's a slice of life story. So I didn't absolutely love this one, but I didn't absolutely hate it either. It's like that really weird mix in between where it's like you do want to read additional like sequels from this book, but I'm also not in a rush to get out and get it. But like I said, for the most part, it really was just an enjoyable read, and it's one of those books that you can sit down and kind of read in a sitting, which is part of the gripe that I have with manga, is I feel like I spend $10 on a book and then in 20 minutes it's gone. And granted, while comics don't last much longer, at least, I don't know, I can't explain it. Manga's weird, but I still love it. Way of the House Husband, Volume 1, is another book that I've been really wanting to read. I saw my girl, the Nerdburger Kaz, reading it in one of her videos, and she's always talking about this book. And then just as I was leaving the comic book shop, one of our regulars pre-ordered the book, and I was like glancing through it, and I'm like, this is actually kind of cute. I think I want to read it. So Way of the House Husband is another slice of life manga, and I really like these slice of life mangas. I didn't think that I would, but I just really like how wholesome they feel. But Way of the House Husband follows the story of an ex-Yakuza member who is known none other than the Immortal Dragon, and he's one of the most feared and powerful and ruthless Yakuza members, and now he has transitioned and has become a lovely house husband. And I like this book a lot more than I liked Androgynous Boyfriend. There's a lot of really great humor in it. There's a lot of really great moments where you like think that the house husband is like gonna kill people and revert back to his ways, but then it turns into something cute like, hey, can I pet your dog? Like, I love this, man. Like, this is great. This is quality, wholesome content that I am here for. I really like the jokes. I really like just the wholesomeness of it. And yeah, it's a good book. It's a very good book. So I'm definitely going to be picking up future volumes of this one. I think they're up to like volume 4 or 5 right now. I don't know. I don't keep track of manga as probably as much as I should, but I'm definitely going to be reading more of House Husband because it's just cute. And that's all I gotta say for it. Assassination was probably like my favorite absolute like #1 pick for comics in terms of 2019. I know I always say die, but after rereading Assassination again for like the 3rd or 4th time, this one takes a cake. This is like absolute goodiness, beautiful, chef kiss perfection. So Assassination brings like 24 assassins together because an ex-assassin turned mob boss is now being targeted, and he thought who better to protect him than the top assassins in the world. However, things kind of go awry, assassins are dropping left and right, and there's just twist after twist with this book that constantly leaves you wanting more. Where the book shines is not only with Erica Henderson's artwork, who I really appreciate on this, by the way, because I know Erica from Squirrel Girl, and I'm so used to her doing cutesy, child-friendly stuff, but in Assassination, she just goes balls to the wall, heads are being chopped off. It's just really fun without being uber gory. It's like comedic violence, and I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate her character designs, because the assassins in this book are my absolute favorite thing. I mean, hello, you have a character named Fuck Tarkington who's a little ambiguous, and I absolutely love this sweet boy, and he's my favorite. You also have characters like David Bowie Knife. I could read like 40 million volumes about these assassins because they are just absolutely amazing. The book really does shine in its characters and in its humor. There's a lot of really just funny, laugh out loud lines that no matter how many times I've read this book and I know that the lines are coming, I still laugh the same way I did the first time. It's really witty. It's really funny. There's these really awesome like assassin scoreboards at the beginning of every issue that kind of introduce to you the assassins that are like, you know, these top assassins, and it's really awesome to watch and see as the rankings go up and down with each issue depending on who dies. Don't get attached to any of the assassins because this book kind of has like a Suicide Squad type vibe where nobody is safe. Also, this book is queer, so read it. One of my absolute favorite things in the world is picking up a book on a whim just because of the cover or because I flipped through the pages and I really like the artwork and I have no idea what this book is. I've never heard of it, but yet I take it home and I end up loving it. And that's what happened with The New World. So The New World is published by Image Comics. It's a 5-issue miniseries by Trad Moore, who famously just recently did Silver Surfer Black. It tells the story of like a futuristic, apocalyptic, ruined fascist United States of America. I don't know how to explain it other than it's Mad Max Fury Road with a little razzle dazzle of Tank Girl in it. So New World has these two really great contrasting characters. So on one hand you have Stella, who is a like reality TV show cop and is also the daughter of our big bad guy. And then on the other hand you have Kirby, who is a vegan anarchist that just wants to tear down the system. It basically turns into this Romeo and Juliet sort of love story where the two meet. They don't have a whole lot of time together, but they realize that they fall in love, and they kind of help to mend each other's differences and the flaws that each character has, because while they are two different contrasting sides, and at basis it seems like good and evil, both characters have their flaws and both characters have their problems, and they kind of work their way through it while also dismantling the system and kind of just saying F it and living their lives. It's a really great book that I couldn't put down, and I was really surprised and unexpected by it. The art by Tradd Moore here, like I said, absolutely slaps. It's probably the best thing out of the whole book aside from its humor. That's the other thing about this book is, like Assassination, it has a lot of really great humor. There's a lot of really funny and witty dialogue between the characters. This is another book that is really queer without it being in your face, but I really, really appreciate it, and it's moments that just made me go, ha! And the character designs are just really awesome. I think my biggest complaint with New World is that I just wanted more, because there is such a solid foundation here. There's such a solid world that I just wanted to see more of, and I don't know if it was the creator's intentions to just be like, oh, we're doing 5 issues, I'm telling the story I want to tell, and then we're done, or if it was a matter of maybe this series didn't get the traction that it should have and it was reduced to 5 issues. Because I'll be honest, this book was published apparently in like 2018, and I don't remember hearing or seeing anything about it at all. So this is definitely one of those sleeper hits from Image Comics that I think you should read, especially if you like things like Mad Max and Tank Girl and you just like really cool psychedelic action. This book, it's really fantastic, and I really, really liked it. So it's time for an unpopular opinion, because you know there's no shortage of those on this channel. But I'm not the biggest fan of the whole Dawn of X reboot or launch thing. There are some really great smash titles that came out of it. I really enjoyed Marauders, and I really, really enjoyed X-Force, surprisingly. But for a event that claims to be like a relaunch for the X-Men, where you can jump on without really having any X-Men history, which I don't, I still kind of got lost in the shuffle, and I still didn't really know what was going on, and it felt just overly convoluted and kind of full of itself. I don't know. So when Dawn of X started, I went out of my way to pick up the first issue of, I think, all of the series except for maybe one. And I tried to read them, and like I said, X-Force and Marauders are the only two that stuck. And while I really, really enjoyed New Mutants, I didn't enjoy it enough to read it issue by issue and decided to wait for the trade. So I just read New Mutants, and first of all, I just got to start off with this. Why does New Mutants Volume 1 collect New Mutants number 1, number 2, number 5, and number 7? Marvel, you don't make any sense. Please explain. So New Mutants, so this book I have a lot of conflicting problems with. On one hand, I really, really liked it, and on one hand, I really, really hated it, and I'm just like Marvel, I guess, with their trade issue numbering or whatever. I'm very, very confused. So I really don't know anything about New Mutants other than the fact that Cable first appeared in New Mutants back in the 90s. I also know that there's a movie coming out that I really, really want to watch, and they just keep delaying it, and if I never get to see that movie, I might actually scream. New Mutants, when it was fun, was really, really fun, but when it was bad, it was really, really bad. Like, at this point, I can't even tell you about the plot because I don't really know what was going on half the time. And if I'm being honest with you, the one thing that saved this book for me was the character interactions. I really liked the character interactions. There's some really great moments involving Coffee and Magic is basically my new wife, and I love her, and I would literally die for her because look at her. She's beautiful, and moment of silence for how much I love Magic, and I'll never be able to be with her. Sorry, Colossus.
You're my new best friend.
This book, I don't really even know what to say about it because what happened? There's space and it's robots, I think, and New Mutants. And that's it. That's all I have for New Mutants. I will say that the art is really nice. The art is absolutely gorgeous in this book. There's some really wonderful moments that I really appreciated, especially within that first page. And I really liked that this art style lent itself to a Cape comic, because art styles like this isn't something that we get to see in Cape comics very often. If you look at DC comics, every book kind of looks the same. If you look at Marvel, they do a little bit better, but this book, I think, in terms of its art, stands out amongst the rest. So I promise I didn't absolutely hate everything that I read this month. However, it is starting to feel that way, but the plot from my boys over at Volt Comics was just a huge and utter disappointment. And I'm gonna be honest, this is actually, I think, the first ever series from Volt Comics that I really didn't care for. I was really excited for this. Everybody had been hyping it up. It sold out immediately when it first debuted. And this book was just kind of a letdown for me. So it has this like Swamp Thing vibe with a little bit of family turmoil meets Hereditary. So the plot is another book that I really can't talk about a whole lot because I don't really remember what happened. And that's disappointing when a book, especially one that is hyped up as much as the plot was, at least in the circle of comics that I'm in, it's really rough when a comic doesn't leave an impact at all, where you can't even really recall what happened. I will say that this book had an extremely slow burn, and I really didn't appreciate that. I honestly didn't start getting interested and invested until about the last issue, and if I'm saying even that, like the last 5 pages of the last issue, it was that slow of a burn that I really did not care for. I do think that extreme fans of horror might really appreciate this one. I can see kind of where it was going, and it really does have that horror, like classic horror vibe, but for somebody who only dabbles in horror occasionally, it was just too slow of a burn for me. So this is a book that I'm probably just gonna do like a one and done on. They kind of leave you on a cliffhanger, and if I have to be that person and be that nitpicky, this only has the first 4 issues in it, but it's the same price as a trade that would have 6 issues in it. It's got a price point of $18, and why is it that a trade that has less content in it is the same as one that has more content? I know I'm not good at math, but something don't add up. Dead End Kids was a book that I was so excited about, and I really wanted to read it. I got my hands on the first issue, and I really enjoyed the first issue, and then literally the second and third issues came out before I could even grab them, and they immediately went out of printing, and they were not getting second printings, and it was really depressing because I really enjoyed this book. This is from small indie publisher Source Point Press, and Dead End Kids feels like a book that everybody was talking about when it launched, and then no one was talking about, and that really makes me sad because it has a Paper Girls vibe to it that I think a lot of people would gravitate to. So I love the fact that Dead End Kids is set in the year 1999. It follows a small group of 4 teenage misfit kids. They all have their own lives that are kind of just a mess, and they're trying to deal with them. You have the one girl whose mom is preparing for Y2K. You have the other one whose mom has died, and now his dad is like a drunk alcoholic and is trying to cope with that. So we've got this group of misfit kids that kind of come together and become friends, and their lives are absolutely shattered when one of them turns up dead, and it turns into this sort of mystery / revenge tale because they think they know who did it, and they decide to go out in a quest for revenge and kind of make this bully pay. But then things take a total nosedive and a twist when, things don't turn up as it should. I really liked this one. It was a very quick read, which might be one of my gripes with it. I finished the book extremely fast, and granted, I am a fast reader, but I just wanted more. And that's the other weird thing, is while it is only about, I think it's 3 issues, I feel like the twist ending was kind of thrown in, but at the same time it also feels expected. I just feel like it didn't have enough time to cook in the oven. But at the same time, I also think that Dead End Kids was short and sweet and didn't overstay its welcome, and I'm worried that with more issues it would kind of just drag out and draw out and wouldn't be as impactful of a story as it is. So I don't know, I guess we're just filled with all sorts of conflicted feelings on comics this month. I don't know. So Dead End Kids, I really like this book. Like I said, the trade itself only compiles the first 3 issues, but it does have a price point of $9.99. But I really like this one. I know some people didn't really care for the way that things ended with it, but if you like those types of Stranger Things meets Stand By Me meets Paper Girls, I don't know, average teen romp, find yourself sort of story, definitely check out Dead End Kids. So this next book on my list is probably my favorite book of the entire month, which is a huge surprise because I've literally had it sitting on my shelf for like 4 years and I've been extremely intimidated by it. But the book of the month, I guess if that's a new thing, is gonna go to The Old Guard by Greg Rucka. And I'm not kidding when I say that I was scared and intimidated by this book for absolute years, because when you flip through it, it doesn't really look all that interesting, but I've always been hearing good things about it, and I absolutely love Greg Rucka as a writer. That being said, Greg Rucka and me don't always get along. Greg Rucka's writing can be very dense and very intimidating and very just not my style and not my scene. Sometimes it's a little complex for my liking, but The Old Guard is so freaking good. And I read this one just in time for the Netflix movie that airs in July. So your girl is hype and I'm really excited for more Old Guard content. But The Old Guard it feels like one of those OG comics published by Image where it follows 4 soldiers who have wandered the earth for years and they just literally can't die. And they've gone through these life cycles and they just kind of wander from there and they take part in wars and they take part in battles. And it's just so interesting. And at the same time, it probably shouldn't be as interesting as it is because, like I said, at first glance, this book does not look the best. The art style is kind of weird, but it grows on you. And I absolutely fell in love with this book. I fell in love with all of its characters. You have Andy, who is just like my absolute favorite type of character trope ever. She's this like bad bitch with a troubled past and is the stoic leader, and you don't fuck with her, and I absolutely love her. And the fact that Charlize Theron is gonna play her in the movie, I'm just like, whew, this is what dreams are made of. Hilary Duff in the background singing This Is What Dreams Are Made Of. This book might honestly be up there in terms of my favorite Rucka stories. Like, it honestly stands on pedestals with Wonder Woman Year One and Batwoman Elegy. I'm not even kidding. This book is just that good. And I think, again, like you've seen with this reoccurring theme for this month, I feel like where this book really thrives is in its characters. There's a lot of really great characters, and the interactions between them and the long histories that they have are really awesome. There's also 2 very prominent and queer characters that I really appreciate. I guess that's another theme with this month, is everything is just queer. The Old Guard was just a book that I didn't want to put down, and I wanted to read more, and then I was kind of sad when it ended because the way it ends is so bittersweet and so fitting. But then I found out that apparently there's a sequel comic that started up this year, and I'm like, I'll take more Old Guard content because I feel like this book could go either way. I feel like this book could stop at its like 5th and final issue, but I also really want more, and I want to know more about these characters and about their past because they literally are eternal soldiers. And while you get a glimpse of that throughout Old Guard, I just really wanted more. So Old Guard, I'm really excited about the movie. I think I'm gonna try and do like a sort of comic comparison review because I think that would be really fun. I'm just hoping that the movie is good. The trailer looks really good, especially because I didn't even watch the trailer until I read the book. So while it looks like there are some changes, for the most part, Old Guard is sticking to its roots, and I'm really excited about that. So, little known fact about me, I am a humongous, like huge fan of Hawkman. Actually, that's a lie. I'm more of a fan of Hawkgirl, but you get the point. So I finally took the time to read Hawkman Awakening, which is the Hawkman Rebirth run. Yeah, I know it doesn't say Rebirth on it, but as I said in my Shelfie tour, anything that was published after Rebirth is considered DC Rebirth to me. Fight me on that. So it feels like it's literally been forever since we've gotten really good Hawkman content. And I'm gonna say like before the New 52, because the New 52, while it did give us Savage Hawkman, it was done by Rob Liefeld. And as we know, Rob Liefeld is trash. And in turn, his Savage Hawkman was trash. And even without Rob Liefeld being attached to it, it was just a really bad story. So please don't think I'm just coming at Rob Liefeld. But at the same time, I totally am. Hawkman is one of those really weird gimmicky characters that can be really overwhelming and really hard to understand. I myself, even though I'm a huge Hawkman fan, don't really understand what's going on half the time, but I really enjoy the character anyway. his whole gimmick being the incarnations, and when he meets up with his lover, Shayera Hall, aka the wonderful Hawk Girl, they die, and it's really depressing, and why you gotta do me like that? But I really like this run of Hawkman because it takes everything we know and it kind of mushes it all together and makes sense of everything. And what am I doing with my hands? Mars, stop. But it really does. It brings everything together in the way that it needs to be. Throughout all of Hawkman's incarnations, they've literally taken him everywhere. They've taken him throughout the course of history. They've also done these weird alternate dimension things and have said, hey, no, you were actually a space cop on the planet Thanagar, but JK, that's an alternate universe, and I feel like I need a whole chart to understand the Hawkman timeline. But Hawkman Awakening takes literally, like I said, all of that and sort of brings it together and says, hey, no, these aren't alternate universes. These are all part of the same timeline. It's just a matter of when they took place, and it's Hawkman literally bouncing from timeline to sort of question and make sense of everything that's going on. I really, really enjoyed this one. It gave it the Indiana Jones feel that I feel like Hawkman always deserves. Now I'm just hoping and wishing that they would give Hawkman more of a romantic side to it. So at its core, the Hawks, their entire gimmick, aside from the incarnations, it is romance. It is the love that they share for each other. And I have seen in future solicitations that Hawkgirl has been appearing in Hawkman issues. So I'm really, really excited for that. And I'm really hoping that DC will go that route. DC for me has been a little disappointing lately, as you can tell with my latest Birds of Prey video. I also have another DC is disappointing video type thing in the works, but Hawkman really made me remember why I love Hawkman as a character, and it also made me realize why I love DC Comics. So I'm really excited and really happy that I got a chance to read this. And if you do want to dabble in the character, I feel like this is an excellent jumping on place for you to start. So I'm really proud that throughout the month of May, I only reread one book. I'm trying to kind of keep with that and focus on new things, but sometimes you just want to reread those old classics and those old favorites. And that's what I did with Plutona. Now, it's no secret that I am a huge Jeff Lemire fan. I feel like everything he touches is just literal gold, and up there with Brian K. Vaughan. He does these stories that kind of make you think and twist what you know and kind of questions your inner morals and intentions. Now, out of all of the Jeff Lemire stories, I really do think that Plutona might be my absolute favorite. So Plutona is a self-contained story spanning over the course of, I believe it was 5 issues or so. It's a mini-series, which makes picking up the trade really great because it's a one-shot done, boom, bam, you're having fun. But Plutona tells the story of 5 kids who find a superhero dead in the woods. And it's really, really interesting because you've got all of these characters with all of their different personalities. You have, you know, your bad boy type character. You have your, like, 2 girls that are kind of questioning their friendship because the bad boy comes in and changes everything up. And then you have our superhero fanatic who just loves superheroes. He knows everything about them, which makes things even more devastating when he finds a hero that he looks up to and probably adores dead in the woods. And it just kind of starts this questioning between these kids because it's like, well, what do we do about a dead superhero in the woods? Some of them think that they should tell the police. Some of them think that they should just bury her and forget. And then things get really dark and really twisted when Teddy, who is our superhero expert, thinks that if he cuts into Plutona and sort of shares his blood with hers, that maybe he too can gain superpowers and become a superhero like her and like all of these people that he idolizes. It's a really grim tale of growing up and friendship. And again, it's one of those books like Dead End Kids. I feel like these 2 books kind of go hand in hand. It's a book about growing up and finding yourself and that Stand By Me sort of story that feels like the media has sort of overdone, but Jeff Lemire takes it and wholly makes it unique by adding that razzle dazzle of superhero. I also really like that with Plutona, we kind of get a alternate timeline where we get to see Plutona. We get to see that she is just a regular waitress struggling to provide for her family while also moonlighting as a superhero, which makes things even sadder when it turns out that she's the one who's dead in the woods. So if you're a Jeff Lemire fan and you really love Jeff Lemire writings, I need you to pick up Plutona. I need you to talk to me about it because this is just such a good and amazing book, and I kind of hope it gets adapted one day, but it's just a solid tale that everybody needs to read. So that's it. That is everything for the month of May. And if I'm being honest with you, this video probably won't be coming out until July, which means the June video is probably going to be right behind it. But I'll be honest, the reading list for June isn't nearly as stacked as it was for the month of May, so I'm trying to kind of compensate for that with more content. Also, don't you think that I forgot that it's Pride Month. I know it's Pride Month. I've just been busy. I haven't had time to make my Pride video, but a Pride video is coming because, as you know, I'm your gay comic mom, so I need to give you gay comic things to read. So that is definitely coming. Be prepared for all the gay things. There's just so many. It's going to be ridiculous, you guys. So that's it. That's everything. As always, I love you guys so much. Thanks for supporting me and being with me in this very weird pandemic-y time. Thanks for dealing with all of the changes. I know change, it's weird, and it's probably just going to continue changing. Thanks for always being with me as I evolve. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Bye!